If you want to find like the absolute most ruthless, highly calibrated evaluators in the digital economy today, um, don't look in a Silicon Valley incubator.
Right. Definitely
You
not.
know, like, don't look at the 22-year-old tech influencer operating out of some local coffee shop, fueled by energy drinks, and trying to disrupt an entire industry before they hit 30.
Yeah, that's the stereotype, but it's just not the reality anymore.
Exactly. Instead, look at the 58-year-old middle manager who just sat down at their kitchen table and decided they need a backup retirement plan. Welcome to today's deep dive.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this one.
Me too. Because we are exploring a quiet yet absolutely massive shift in who is actually winning the online business game and why doing everything completely backward, like doing it really slowly, is their ultimate unfair advantage.
Yeah, we're looking at a pretty fascinating essay today titled Online Business After 55, Why Evaluation Matters More Than Opportunity.
It's such a good read.
It really is. And the mission here for our deep dive is to cut through the deafening noise of the internet, to extract a surprisingly pragmatic approach to building digital income later in life.
Which is something a lot of people need right now.
Absolutely. But to really grasp what is happening, we have to establish the baseline reality for this demographic. Because this isn't about traditional retirement.
Right. We aren't talking about saving up for a boat or moving to a golf community in Florida.
No, not at all. But we also aren't talking about building the next billion-dollar tech startup either. This movement is fundamentally about one single concept, and that's control.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because control over their financial destiny, their time, their security, that's huge.
It's everything.
I mean, we are living in an economic environment where costs are relentlessly rising. Inflation isn't just a headline on the news, it's showing up in the grocery aisle every single week for you and me.
Yeah, and the traditional safety nets are they're fraying.
Exactly. The pensions that used to be standard, the 401ks tied to this really volatile stock market, they just feel significantly less certain than they did 20 years ago.
So you have this massive group of older adults looking at the horizon and realizing they need to ensure their own financial stability.
Right. They're turning to the online space out of a deeply practical need to secure their foundation, not to become internet famous on TikTok.
Which completely changes the psychology of how they approach the digital world. I mean, they aren't looking for a lottery ticket. They are looking for structural integrity.
So true. But,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the big roadblock, think about what happens the exact second someone in their late 50s Googles how to make money online.
Oh, man, it's a disaster.
It really is. They don't find a calm, structured roadmap. They basically step onto a psychological battlefield. It is an absolute wall of chaos.
It is pure, unfiltered noise. When someone begins exploring digital business models, they are immediately hit with just an avalanche of aggressive marketing.
Oh, the squeeze pages.
Yeah. The squeeze pages, the countdown timers, the promises of, passive income while you sleep.
Make $10,000 by tomorrow.
Exactly. And almost all of it is wrapped in this incredibly heavy pressure of quick results. It's an environment designed from the ground up to bypass your logical brain and trigger a state of artificial urgency.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this a little bit, or at least play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Isn't the internet business model entirely based on the idea of urgency? Like, we are culturally conditioned to worship at the altar of moving fast and breaking things.
That's the Silicon Valley mantra, yeah.
Right. If you don't jump on a trend today, like if you don't buy the crypto dip or start the drop shipping store or leverage the latest AI automation tool right this very second, you've completely missed the boat.
People definitely feel that way.
The early bird getting the worm isn't just a saying, it's like the core religion of the digital economy.
Well, what's fascinating here is how that exact assumption is what leads to a staggering failure rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Urgency and pressure rarely, if ever, lead to good outcomes when complex systems are involved. When decisions about your time, your energy, and your foundational financial security carry massive weight, operating out of a sense of panic is disastrous.
That makes sense.
You don't have the luxury of spending a decade recovering from a catastrophic financial blunder at 58 like you might at 22.
Right. I mean, a $20,000 mistake at 25 is a funny story you tell on a podcast later. A $20,000 mistake at 58 is a delayed retirement.
Exactly. The stakes are fundamentally different, which means the actual literal first step to online business has to be different.
So what is the first step then?
Well, the amateur rushes to pick an opportunity because they are terrified of missing out. The veteran pauses. The first step is not choosing an opportunity.
Oh, interesting.
The first step is learning how to evaluate opportunities properly.
Evaluation over opportunity. Wow. So if you can master that, the bad options just eliminate themselves.
They do, they just fall away.
You don't even have to agonize over the scams or the unsustainable trends because they don't pass that initial stress test.
Exactly.
Which brings up a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
If the absolute key to navigating this wall of internet noise is the ability to evaluate, who actually holds the cards?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because the assumption is always that the tech-savvy 20-something has the advantage, right? Because they understand the software. They grew up with an iPad in their hands.
Sure, but technical skill can be learned by anyone with an internet connection and a weekend to spare.
Fair point.
The single biggest advantage people over 55 bring to the table is perspective.
Perspective.
Decades of experience in the workforce, managing life events, balancing corporate budgets, making complex, nuanced decisions. All of that forges a highly developed ability to recognize patterns.
I love thinking about this mechanically. It's not just a vague gut feeling. It's a finely tuned algorithm in their heads.
That's a great way to put it.
Over the course of a 30 or 40-year career, you develop this highly calibrated, built-in spam filter.
Yes, a spam filter for bad ideas.
Exactly. You've navigated office politics. You've seen management fads like Six Sigma or open plan offices come and go. You've survived the dot-com bubble and the 2008 crash. You have a massive database of red flags.
And think about how that applies to a digital sales pitch. A 20-year-old sees a pitch for a revolutionary new automated e-commerce business, and they just see endless possibility.
They see the Lamborghini parked in the background of the video.
Right. But a 58-year-old sees that same pitch, and their internal algorithm immediately flags the structural flaws.
They start asking the boring but important questions.
Exactly. They ask, who handles the returns? What are the actual margins after advertising spend? What happens to the business when the overseas supplier raises their prices by 10%?
They know intuitively that the math has to make sense. If someone promises you a 20% return in a week, the veteran knows that violates the basic laws of economic physics.
It's a total paradigm shift in how you approach the problem.
How so?
Well, instead of approaching the internet with the amateur question, which is, what opportunity should I jump into right now? This demographic's rich experience allows them to ask the professional question, how do I judge whether this opportunity actually possesses structural integrity?
For anyone listening right now, consider how powerful that mental pivot is.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you are prepping for a major corporate merger, looking at shifting your own career path, or just trying to navigate your daily news feed, pausing to ask, how do I judge the validity of this? Rather than, should I jump? Is an absolute superpower.
It really is. You shift from a reactive state, where you are basically a victim of a marketer's artificial urgency, to a proactive analytical state where you hold all the power.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We've established the theory. We have this demographic using their 30-year spam filter to ruthlessly evaluate business models.
Right.
So what actually survives that level of scrutiny? When you strip away all the hype, what model passes the test for someone looking for control and stability?
Based on the essay, the model that continually passes the evaluation phase for this demographic is affiliate marketing.
Affiliate marketing. Okay.
Now, we have to define this mechanically because the term is often totally misused online.
Oh, absolutely. It gets a bad rap sometimes.
It does. But in its purest form, affiliate marketing involves identifying products, services, or educational programs that solve very real problems for people, recommending those solutions online, and earning a commission when a transaction occurs.
Let's break down why that specific mechanism is so appealing. In affiliate marketing, you aren't dealing with inventory.
Right. No physical products.
You aren't warehousing boxes in your garage. You aren't dealing with supply chain logistics. And you aren't managing a customer service team dealing with refunds.
Exactly. You are purely acting as the trust bridge between a consumer who has a problem and a company that has the solution.
Which relies entirely on understanding human needs.
Yes. It requires empathy, clear communication, and the ability to articulate value.
Which older adults have in spades.
Exactly. A 55-year-old who spent decades in middle management or nursing or teaching knows exactly how to identify a pain point.
Yeah, they've been doing it forever.
They know how to communicate a solution clearly because they've spent their entire adult lives doing it. When affiliate marketing is done properly, it is fundamentally a skill-based business model, not a quick money scheme.
It requires a deep understanding of human psychology. Like, if you are reviewing ergonomic office chairs because you spent 30 years sitting in bad ones, you can write about that pain with genuine authority.
That's a perfect example.
You aren't just stuffing a web page with SEO keywords. You are providing actual lived value to the reader.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but navigating this requires learning a new language.
It does.
You have to understand how digital traffic works, how conversion rates function. You don't just push a button and watch money pour out of your computer monitor.
Yeah, right. And learning that new language requires structure. Trying to piece together a comprehensive business education by watching random, disconnected YouTube videos is a recipe for the exact overwhelm we talked about earlier.
Oh, it's the worst. You just go down a rabbit hole.
It's like trying to learn how to build a house by watching someone nail 3 boards together and then watching a different video on how to paint a door with no architectural blueprint in between.
Which brings us to the specific example of how this is practically applied. Some people prefer to figure it out alone, but a lot of people desperately need a guided path to strip away the confusion.
And that is where programs like Michael Cheney's Millionaire Apprentice come into play, which the essay highlights.
Right. If evaluation is the first step, finding a framework that passes your evaluation and provides that blueprint is the second.
Exactly. A program like Cheney's functions by introducing the mechanics of affiliate marketing in a strict sequence. It prioritizes building a foundational understanding of the underlying process.
Step by step.
Yes. You have to understand how to attract an audience and why an audience decides to click a link before you ever attempt to scale anything up.
That's crucial.
And certainly before you spend money on advertising.
It's the difference between taking the time to understand how an internal combustion engine works versus just mashing your foot on the gas pedal and praying you don't hit a tree.
That's exactly what it is. And having that pre-laid structure removes the paralysis. It takes this infinite universe of digital noise and distills it into a manageable sequence.
First, you execute step A, then you analyze step B, then you move to step C.
And that structure inherently creates safety. It reduces the cognitive load. And that leads directly to the ultimate philosophy behind all of this.
Right, the pacing.
Once you understand a structured model like affiliate marketing and you have a blueprint to follow, your mindset has to shift to accommodate the pace of execution. Because the pace of your progress actively dictates your long-term success.
Which completely flies in the face of everything we are told about the digital world.
It really does.
The idea that slower, more thoughtful progress is actually more effective feels like heresy on the internet.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the philosophy here is calm progress.
Calm progress, I like that.
When you take the time to evaluate, to truly understand the mechanics of the model you are building, the experience ceases to be stressful. You are no longer operating out of a fear of missing out.
You stop chasing whatever new software tool launched yesterday.
Exactly, and you start focusing entirely on building core skills.
Because skills, not luck, not timing the market, not going viral on some social media app skills, are what create long-term, unshakable stability.
Absolutely.
There is a powerful 3-step mantra in the text that encapsulates this philosophy of calm progress. And if you are listening to this, I highly recommend writing this down. Step 1, clarity first. Step 2, decision second. Step 3, action last.
Let's look at the mechanics of that mantra. Clarity first means you completely understand the business model.
You aren't guessing.
Right. You know exactly how a dollar is generated, where the traffic comes from, and what your specific role is in the transaction. You don't move forward until the blueprint makes logical sense.
And then decision second means you commit to the process, not just the fantasy of the outcome.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. You decide that you are going to learn the skill of writing good recommendations, even if it takes 6 months to master. You commit to the work, not the Lamborghini.
Exactly. And finally, action last means you finally execute, but you do it without the manic panic that characterizes most beginners.
You execute methodically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is entirely backward to how most of the internet operates, which is usually action first, panic second, and try to find clarity third while your bank account drains.
The classic just build the parachute on the way down mentality.
Which is terrifying.
It is a terrifying way to live, especially if your retirement timeline is shrinking. But by following this calm, deliberate order, the act of starting an online business completely changes its nature.
It does.
It ceases to feel like pulling the lever on a slot machine at a casino. It becomes a thoughtful, measured extension of the professional wisdom that the person has already spent a lifetime building.
It honors their lived experience. It turns their age, their skepticism, and their demand for logical structure into their greatest competitive assets.
This has been such an incredible perspective shift. Let's recap the journey we've taken on this deep dive.
Let's do it.
We started by looking at a demographic that people over 55, who are actively seeking control and stability in an increasingly unpredictable economic landscape.
And we identified the massive, overwhelming wall of noise and artificial urgency they hit the moment they try to enter the digital economy.
Right. Then we unpacked how their built-in pattern recognition, their finely tuned spam filter, allows them to bypass that noise through rigorous evaluation. They look for structural integrity over hype.
We examined affiliate marketing as a prime example of a skill-based model that survives that evaluation, specifically because it relies on empathy and being a reliable trust bridge for consumers.
And we discussed how guided blueprints, like Michael Chaney's Millionaire Apprentice, provide the necessary structure to learn this new language safely.
Right.
And finally, we explored the incredible power of calm progress. Clarity first, decision second, action last. So, what does this all mean for you?
Yeah, how does the listener use this?
Well, this framework is honestly the ultimate antidote to modern information overload. It doesn't matter what age you are, what industry you work in, or what complex new skill you were trying to learn today.
It applies to everything.
It really does. If you can force yourself to ignore the artificial urgency, slow down to evaluate the underlying mechanics of an idea, and prioritize deliberate skill building over frantic, quick wins, you take back control of your trajectory.
This raises an important question, though, and it is something I want to leave you with to mull over long after this audio stops playing.
Ooh, okay. What is it?
Well, we have historically viewed the internet as a young person's game. We assume the digital economy naturally rewards the fast, the loud, and the highly disruptive.
That's the cliche, yeah.
But if true, long-term digital stability actually relies on slow, calm progress, critical evaluation, and advanced pattern recognition.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Could this careful, highly skeptical, over 55 demographic quietly become the most enduring and successful force in the future digital economy simply by outlasting the burnout of everyone else?
Winning the race simply by refusing to sprint. That is a brilliant thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you some powerful new framework to apply to your own life and decisions. Keep evaluating, stay curious, and we will catch you on the next one.